on that topic of recruiting, you mentioned last week that Stanford was playing in the kiddie pool, specifically recruiting in the kiddie pool. And I don't know what I feel about that. So I want to give you a chance to defend yourself because it's a little bit indefensible. So go ahead, King. Is Stanford really in the recruiting kiddie pool?
That was some real unbiased journalism from you, saying I want to give you a chance to defend yourself because it's indefensible. Thank you very much. You should definitely get a job in cable news, my friend. First of all, can we address this question in the chat? Because I believe Megan asked this exact same question last week. And I think we got to address it because it's a fantastic question that relates to what I'm about to say. And that is that USC has the conference's worst mascot. It's a literal Trojan. This guy is walking around with a sword. It's dangerous. It might be offensive. And the way I see it, it's representative of everything about USC that including their bougie atmosphere. And since we don't get a USC game in which I can bring up my Trojan hate and really bear it before the world, then I have to do it right here and say that I hate their mascot. But despite their mascot, USC and Oregon and Washington are recruiting a lot better than Stanford is right now. And I had to do some research after I made my kiddie pool take last week. And I got to say, Daniel, there are some things that favor your direction. Stanford has never been an elite recruiting power in the sense of an Alabama or Clemson. But what I think has changed in recent years is that Stanford is not getting that top-end talent. They have not signed a Solomon Thomas, a Christian McCaffrey, an Andrew Luck in a while. And Stanford has always been built around having a solid, consistent team elevated by one or two superstars, hopefully on both sides of the ball. And they've been missing that superstar and really Bryce Love only in the 2017 season. And I think that has to do with Stanford not being able to land 5 stars. They have not landed a 5-star since 2017. But Daniel, I want to let you talk a little bit, build your case first. Then I'm going to come back and just kind of evaluate Stanford's recruiting rankings year over year to see like where we think they've gone wrong. But my initial thought is you got to sign those 5 stars. If you're going to compete at the highest level, you have to have some of the highest talent. Stanford's got a whole lot of high 3-star, low 4-star guys. They're not signing a lot of top 100 recruits anymore. And I think that's because if you're a top 100 recruit who is really just looking for that golden ticket to the NFL, Stanford should be the place you're looking at, but I don't think it's being sold as such, and it could be.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But if we look back at who that 5-star was in the recruiting class, there are actually a few, but the one that's still with the program in a prominent role is Davis Mills. And I think he has the potential to be a superstar. But even beyond that, I do want to say that Stanford succeeded for a long time without 5 stars. We go back to 2006. Under the radar 3 stars like Toby Gerhardt and Richard Sherman. Like those were the guys in that class. And then eventually those guys were playing in an Origin Bowl, right? They had a 63rd ranked recruiting class in 2006. In 2007, it was 51st. In 2008, it was 47th with the addition of a 4-star, Andrew Luck. That was their first 4-star in a while there. And then they were competing. So the difference was there is it wasn't they were getting top-end guys, is that they were playing to a system. That they figured out this is how we can play, this is what our style can be, this is what our identity is. It was all about intellectual brutality. It was all about physical upfront play. It was all about the tunnel workers union. They had all of that. They had smart guys who could fit into that system. So they didn't need 100 top 100 guys. Eventually they got there when they started winning games, but they didn't need it. And I think there's still a path for that now. It's much more difficult. It's much more difficult now, but there's still a path to say this is our identity, this is how we're going to play, and then get the guys to fit into that system. But I want to hear what you have to say too.
So, Daniel, 2 things about that point. I agree with you that the model was fantastic if you look at the late 2000s and early 2010s. But I'm not sure that model is even possible anymore. Because, first of all, strength and conditioning and coaching is just not at the intellectual brutality level anymore. They're not taking 3-star offensive linemen and turning them into NFL guys with any kind of consistency. They're not building up that toughness on defense with a bunch of under-recruited, not as athletic guys who turn out to be fantastic because they just get that nasty streak. That's not really there in the program anymore. And so Stanford's basically been trying to win like the other guys. We talked about it when they cut sports, that a lot of that decision behind the scenes was about we need more money for football and the other quote unquote money sports. We want to be more like the SEC and the ACC and the Big Ten and everybody else. We're going to pour money into the big sports and kind of forget about the rest. I wholeheartedly disagree with that decision, but if that's what you're going to do, you got to recruit at an elite level to make it worth it. And when you look at Stanford's recruiting rankings since 2010, best class was in 2012, where they were 7th nationally, 1st in the Pac-12. Worst class was the year following, 2013, where they were 52nd nationally, 11th in the Pac-12. But in recent years, they've been kind of living in that, around 20 range. 2020, they had the 21st national class and 3rd in the Pac-12. 2019, 19th national class, 3rd in the Pac-12. But I think what's really opened the eyes of the recruiting world to Stanford's struggles was that 2018 class, where it was not a small class. Stanford signed small classes that kind of artificially lower their rankings. But that 2018 class was not very small, and yet it was still 40th nationally and 7th in the Pac-12. The highest ranked commit who enrolled year in that class, the 2018 class, was Jack West. And we saw Jack West one start at quarterback. It did not go well. I think that he's got a lot of room to grow, that's for sure. Maybe someday he is a starter for Stanford, but right now he looks like a competent backup. And he was the highest ranked recruit besides Tanner McKee, who is not enrolling until this year. And so, that shows that Stanford was losing a lot of battles for top guys, signing a lot of 3-stars that you would think they probably rather sign as walk-ons, frankly. It's the type of guys that should not be taking a scholarship spot at Stanford. And, this whole conversation was prompted with the 24/7 Sports Pac-12 recruiting rankings of recruiters. There was not a single Stanford coach in the top 10. And I think that shows that Stanford is just not at the same level as a program like Oregon, which I believe had like 5 of the top 10 recruiters in the Pac-12 currently. They're going out and getting guys from all over the country, including poaching people from USC's backyard in Southern California. And Stanford, who always has to recruit nationally, I think is struggling to do the same. And I think we're seeing them sign more 3-star local guys than they are 4-stars from around the country who both fit Stanford's culture and their goals as a football program.
And that's fair. They have been looking nationally, but I think a lot of that is because they have a national brand. So they have the ability to pick someone out of Georgia like Davis Mills and say, here, come play with us. We have this great academic institution. And oh, look, our football team in most years is pretty good. But yeah, I agree with you that they're falling behind in recruiting. I still believe in that intellectual brutality if they want to bring it back. They only have a few coaches left from that era, Shaw, Lance Anderson, and then I'm counting Tavita Pritchard, who was a player in that era. But besides that, yeah, a lot of new coaches. They're going to have to figure out where they actually go in the future. As for us, that's all we have this week. Thank you so much for